It's now time for SME on Point. The South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, together with ABSA, have launched a new SME Index that will serve as a measure for the development of the SME sector in the country. The ABSA SACCI Small Business Growth Index will measure the perceptions of small business owners and managers around business growth and other business prospects. And these indexes is something that we use regularly to gauge, the sentiment of businesses. In most instances, it's big businesses that we normally do. But we will now speak to the CEO of SACCI, Mr. Mukoki, to understand how this index will help you as a business owner watching SME on Point. Mr. Mukoki, thank you so much for your time. You have launched this index this morning together with ABSA. Tell us a little bit more about how you are going to be conducting the survey. Will it be among your own members as SACCI, or will it be a wide net cast across all businesses?
Well, thank you for the invite. No, the SPGI is going to be a very broad yardstick to look at the entire ecosystem of SME as well as SME development and all the issues that attend to it, including issues around employment, creation, the issues relating to skills and competencies, the networks, the mentorship issues, the training and development, the access to markets, the access to capital, because we take this very, very seriously together with our partners. In this particular case, ABSA as well as the UNISA's Bureau for Market Research. So the attempt is not so much to talk to those who are either members of SACCI or those who are already in business, but to look at the entire industry itself in terms of, given the challenges that we face in South Africa of unemployment, poverty, inequality, and the standard economic growth, our thesis quite clearly, which is similar to everyone else, is that it is going to be the growth of the small business sector that is going to give us one of the early and sustainable opportunities to resolve the issues in the economy, to also resolve the issues even relating to transformation, because as you know, so many young people, so many historically disadvantaged people are the ones who are greatly affected by not being in business, by not working, by not having rising incomes. So what we attempt to do with this piece of work is to ensure that there is going to be a level of intellectual credibility around some of the data sets that we produce that are going to guide all of us who are key stakeholders in this particular economic sector, whether it's government policymakers, whether it's people who are in business, whether it's people who are assisting in one way or the other, whether it's funders, or et cetera, et cetera.
I'm particularly excited about it because it's not a lot of time where we can find one place where we can find the perception of small business owners and what they're thinking about the trajectory of business. And as a chamber, it's something you already have experience in. You already put together the BCI, which already informs a lot of the decisions that also happen not only in the economic landscape but also policy-wise. Do you think that you're working towards having this index also inform at some point policy that has to do with SME development?
Well, absolutely, and this is going to be much bigger than the BCI, much bigger than any other indices that we know in South Africa that we've already because the impact is going to be much more wide, including the region, including our own continent, because it is the development of that level of entrepreneurship that's going to be very key, I think, so that when we take decisions, we know exactly what is going on. I mean, I'll give you a typical example. If we say that businesses are failing, and that's why maybe lenders don't want to give businesses money because they're set up, then we need to have a very clear scientific basis of saying why and what are the reasons that that particular failure is taking place. And I think that it will then help us to find sustainable and permanent solutions into the future.
You talk about it being a regional, which other African countries are going to be involved in this, and how exactly is it going to work in terms of collection of data?
Well, it's South Africa at this particular point in time, but as we have said and stated before, we move from South Africa into the future, of course, and we'll start to see what's happening in the region, because we don't necessarily believe in terms of our own intellectual bias that we can sustain economic growth in South Africa of 5-7 points year on year over many years or decades to resolve these big issues. As I said, these three big issues, if we don't necessarily grow and invest in the region. So we need to understand what are the market dynamics in the region itself. We need to understand what are the market dynamics in the rest of the continent. So it is in that context that I say it's not only something that's going to end in South Africa, it's something that's going to end outside of South Africa, because for us to develop and build successful SMEs in South Africa, they need to have clients, they need to have customers.
Yes.
And the region is a soft landing area, because we know we're here, we're intimately close to it. So we need to understand what's happening in Mozambique, we need to understand what's happening in Zambia, so that we open those markets for our own SMEs into the future. And you obviously have the free trade agreement that is continental wide.
Yeah.
So to that particular piece of work, then you need to have the data, absolutely.
Mr. Mukoki, we here on SME On Point are excited about the launch of this index, because we are all about the development and the success of small businesses. And we're definitely going to be keeping tabs, and hopefully we'll be able to get the first copy and see what its contents is. But thank you so much for speaking to us. We've been speaking to the CEO of SACCI, Mr. Alan Mukoki. As I always say that we have a Facebook page. Our Facebook page is at SME On Point. I really would like us to engage on this index. Is it something that you are excited about as much as I am excited about it? Because it's going to give us, a whole lot of information about what is happening with your businesses. Where do you struggle? Where do you see success points? And all of that. So you can reach us on our Facebook page, which is at SME On Point. We'd love to engage with you. To this now, Entrepreneurship to the Point and Property Point warns that the postponement of the 2025 budget speech by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana earlier this week raises serious concerns for SMEs as business confidence and economic stability. The budget speech was thrown forward to the 12th of March this year due to internal contestation within the Government of National Unity over a 2 percentage point VAT increase. To understand the key concerns for SMEs and the economy, Shawn Theunissen, the founder of ETTP and Property Point, joins me virtually. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us on SME On Point. What a week with that postponement. But what does this mean, and how is it viewed by entrepreneurs and the SME community?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon all the viewers as well. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have with the postponement is just the uncertainty that it brings into the business environment. And I think that we're seeing that it will have a reduction in terms of the business confidence that exists. The knock-on effect of it is critical. There's a weak investor sentiment around it. But the uncertainty for small businesses is something that is quite critical.
Were you expecting anything in particular to be addressed by the minister? In a lot of the speeches that are often done, SMEs are do mentioned, but my gauge and feeling is that when I speak to them afterwards, you find that their concerns are not, they find that their concerns are not adequately dealt with, or dealt with, maybe let me say that. What were you specifically looking for? And when we head to the 12th of March, do you think that those things should still be included in whether it's a redraft or a new speech?
Yes, I think it definitely should be. One of the key factors for us that we wanted to see that in the president's speech, Sona address, he spoke about the 20 billion transformation fund, which will be geared towards SMEs. He wanted to be able to get some clarification on that in order for SMEs to be able to tap into those opportunities and potential access to funding. We want to ensure that there's also a key focus around aspects such as addressing the red tape that businesses still face. It's been something that has been addressed quite substantially over the past couple of years, but nothing really has been done on the ground for small businesses. We also find that the ability for small businesses still to access these government funding and grant opportunities is still a hurdle for them. So clarification on that. The president also mentioned in his speech quite a few focuses on the infrastructure investment drive, and what does that really mean for SMEs in order to be able to access that, and how much will we be able to be putting towards access to funding for SMEs within this budget speech? Because if we are looking at SMEs being the engine room for job creation that we so much need in South Africa, there needs to be a key priority for them.
Yeah. The changes in the VAT or the changes that would have been in the VAT had it not been, the budget's not been postponed, so something that's already been quite hotly contested, what would it have meant for the SME community had it gone ahead, or any other movement within that kind of text, whether it's 1 percentage point or 2, what would it mean for SMEs and their growth and development?
I guess, the reality is that a 2% or potential 2% VAT increase has a negative knock-on effect for society as a whole in South Africa, specifically the poor. So you're going to have an increase in cost of living for people. But the strain on SME cash flow will also be quite significant, because that means there's going to be a knock-on increase in prices where they are procuring their goods from. That would be an increase in cost. And to what extent can they pass that on to the consumer? So in order for them to stay in business, their margins is to really become leaner. Any small business out there knows that cash flow is the biggest challenge that they face. Then we're speaking about just the cost of doing business, expectations from the employee's wage. So that means that your employee is going to have a demand for increasing wage in order to meet their living standards.
All right, Shawn, let's leave it there for today. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention here on SME On Point. We really want to make sure that the SME community is not left behind with whatever that's happening in the economy and in the country. Thank you. Shawn Theunissen is the founder of ETTP and Property Point, and he's been joining me virtually to talk about that postponement of the budget that happened earlier this week. It was quite a thing that we saw here. But with that, please remember to support small businesses in your communities, and let's make those rands and cents circulate. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to have more news for you.